premise of his book, that's where he starts here, is look, the laws should be equal. But when you lose institutional control, that's a problem. And what we haven't talked about finally is the things that happen in the wake of legal desegregation that resegregated us. The schools are more segregated now than they were even during that period Cruz is writing about, except now, where the black principals, where the black school teachers, where's the black curriculum and the black narratives? No, they moving in the other direction. Take this out, move that. We don't want to talk about this. We don't want no Black History Month. What the hell happened? The laws changed, but the society didn't change. And I don't care how many documentaries you make. You can't keep papering over this fundamental contradiction. And so who do I blame? I blame the structures. Yeah, the structures create the people we have. And we got it. And individuals don't beat institutions, which is why, Professor Hunter, we have to have our own platforms and own institutions, don't we?
Well, funny you should mention that.
I mean, it'd be a good thing to do, right?
Funny you should say that, Dr. Carr. You know, ever since that day during the beginning of the pandemic, when you and I were having a weekend conversation, and I asked you if I could hit record, because we were recording then.
Yeah.
I knew that this was the thing I didn't know I needed that was going to free me.
Me too.
For my life. So I just want to, first of all, thank you for the spirit and the ancestors that live in you, that you run with, and those that live with me that I run with, because, you know, both of us teach. We've been teaching. I've been teaching a better part of 20 years, NYU, Hunter College, before that, high school kids in Harlem. You've been teaching law and Africana Studies, head of the Africana Studies Department at Howard University. And there's always been this knowing that this was inadequate.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people have spent $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. They're in debt. I know people that are $200,000, $300,000 in debt going to higher education places and still aren't free because that dirty glass of water.
Not at all.
So sitting here, I'm like, we do these classes. We started doing them live, a couple of months ago. Every Saturday, and it has turned into a thing where on any given Saturday, by the end of the week, we'll have 40,000, 50,000 people having come through a 2.5 hour discussion.
That's right.
Really a lesson. So I remember one of the classes we gave where you talked about the African way of knowing, where folks would sit. The jegna, is that what you call it? The teacher.
Yeah,
The teacher would sit, and the students would be in a circle around a tree.
Yep.
They weren't separated by age. They weren't separated by, ability to learn. They weren't put in these designations. There was just lessons being taught and kids absorbed, and they had conversations. And I think about Socrates, that question asking that he got from Africa. So I want to thank you, because today we're launching Knarrative. Somebody asked in the chat, what is narrative? Well, the K is silent, like knowledge. We're going to know some stuff, right?
Like our moon. The Egyptians say it is our moon, although hidden, who is the source of all life, power, and health. So the K is silent, not to mean it ain't there. It's the thing that animates everything. You ain't got to say it.
So what I'm asking is, because as you're talking and as we, and I never know where you're going to go when we start these conversations, there'll be an entry point. But, there's so many documentaries and there's so many movies and television shows. We talked about Bridgerton and all, that have a historic rooting that's not rooted in truth.
Nope.
So we will believe, because very few people read the text that we're talking about, all of the texts, all of the books. But I'm so proud of so many people got their libraries. They try to stack their books up. I'm like, you better go ahead. It's amazing what's going on. But I want to make sure that this is the collective. We're not launching something that is not participatory. Everybody who is watching this,
no question,
I'm calling on you to participate. Not just sign up for Knarrative. You can go to www.knarrative.com and sign up, but get 5 more people to sign up. Because what you're going to find is you kick the tires, and we want you to kick the tires and see what's missing. But the vision for this, and, it started this started as a book. It was going to be a book club. And I was talking with Kareem one Sunday about doing a book club. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, because I want to get back into publishing. And then I could publish books and it'll be a place. That was the original. This was, then I was like, this class. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I was in a giant publishing meetup, and I popped in the guy that was running it. I was like, I was at a Comic-Con one year with him. The only Comic-Con I've ever been to. Shout out to Michael Davis. He invited me to his Black panel. And the first and only time I've ever been to Comic-Con. I'm going to go when these things open back up again. But I'm sitting on the panel, and this guy, because Michael was late, took the MC and started, introducing people. And I met him. His name is Carr, and he was managing this thing. And I was like, what? It was a huge undertaking. It was like 100 plus publishers and writers and people. And he was bringing people into different rooms. And I was like, I know him.
Yes.
I reached out to him and I said, look, what are you doing? And at the time, it was just like, can you manage my Healthy, Wealthy, Wise online, whatever, because I was going to do this virtual, our virtual conference. And then we started talking. And he's a filmmaker. He's into gaming. And he was like, let me bring in my man, Urias, who's in the comic book world. When we talk about comic books. And they're like the Brothers of Thunder in this space. And
yes.
And then we started imagining, because they're both educators too. So, you teach, I teach, they teach, they're all teachers. And then they brought in their teachers. You sit the list of teachers. I was like, why have a space where both teachers can be free?
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting for this. So
we're in beta. Everybody's just for us. It's just for us. And, tell 5 people.
Tell 5.
We want to build this into the thing so that we can do the next documentary that Carr is going to vet to make sure it is historically accurate, and a team of historians that you have in your
not by myself. And we got people. I don't want you to stop. I just want to mention this one thing very quickly. We're college professors, and we love our students, and we do everything. We sacrifice. We do everything for them. We really do. Let's be very clear, everybody listening. We're not going to get free through education in college. It's an important tool. I'm not saying it's not, but what you just heard Professor Hunter say, the debt we all go into, and understand that what we're doing right now, like you said, Prof, looking at the books people are reading, the books people are talking about, I have no doubt in my mind, for example, because sometimes, I'll scan, we scan everything, right? So I'm looking, I see all the New York Times best, and I'm looking at some of the books that are being featured, and I realize this is being driven by these Saturdays. Because this is not a book that was there. And now look at this, number 13. What the hell? And I'm saying it to say this finally. And I want you, please keep going, because I hope listen, get 5 people. Everybody come, because this is not about where you went to undergraduate. In fact, it's the anti where you went to undergraduate. This isn't about, I studied this. No, it's the anti that. You know what you need for this right now? A brain and the will. And that's the way education is supposed to be. Du Bois said that in The Education of Black People, when he gives a talk. He's at Fisk, and he says, I once saw the perfect system of education. It was under a tree in Africa. They were sitting in a circle. This is what this is. So come on. Yeah, everybody been talking about waiting for it. Ain't Professor Hunter? So she done built it. Now, if they build it, we will come, right?
That's what I read that somewhere. And I want to add one more caveat to the brain and the will, love. Because
no question.
This right here is born out of a love for knowledge and truth, but love of the people, man. We don't get here. We don't do this you don't give up your whole entire Saturday. Because after we get off, we both drain. Most times we run into another thing, though.
You know what I mean? No, I should say this right quick. James Baldwin has a quote that, James Baldwin said, love is what helps you recognize what you don't remember. I say, you know what? So people say, I didn't know that. Yeah, but you got the love. In fact, that's what, look, in addition to the fact that Billie Holiday was born in Philly, but raised in Baltimore, that's why I had to rock Coppin State right here. Coppin is one of those HBCUs in Baltimore named for a Black woman, Fannie Jackson Coppin, the master. Love is what helps you recognize what you don't remember. You got the love. Come on in. We'll get our memory back, but it helps you recognize it. That's what people are doing every day. I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you said love, you're absolutely right. That's got to be the greatest of these.
We're not interrupting one another because we are dancing. This is a spiritual dance that we do every Saturday, and we are remembering. We are membering. So we have to bring and gather and bring more people in. And as you're talking, I often, I dub myself the architect because,
No question.
you have to see what the thing is going to look like, but then you have to go all the way back to see how do you build it. And so what we're demonstrating here in Knarrative is how you build a thing from the ground up, a thing that's going to be here long after everyone who's watching this is gone for thousands of years. We're building the Alexandria Library. We're building the Pyramid at Giza. This is the genesis of that. And everybody who is watching this is going to be responsible for adding another brick to
That's right.
thing as we start to continue. My vision is I want to see comic books and cartoons and graphic novels. I want to see novels and nonfiction biographies of people. I want to make sure that they're, when we do Black history and we go around the room, in classrooms, they have all of them, Phyllis Wheatley and Frederick Douglass and all. I want all of the Black people that we don't talk about. You talked about Hazel Scott, somebody, a pianist? No, she wasn't just a pianist. She wasn't just Adam Clayton Powell Jr.'s wife.
Nope.
That woman was amazing. Why don't you know more about her? Well, we're going to talk about her in Knarrative and Anna Hegeman and Paul Robeson's wife.
Oh, Essie Robeson. Essie, and there are books written about them. And like you said, Karen, equally, if not more important, see, we're going to go into the archives. That's not everybody's job. Some of us have given our lives to that and give our lives to that. So come on over here. And what you've done, Karen, I mean, when you first started floating this and you started talking to me about, I'm like, yeah. And then I went and got the A-Team crew that I've been rolling with for decades now. What we said is, finally. So guess what? Come with us. And like Saturdays, this is great. We have our conversations. We keep things current. In this other space, see, any class I'm doing, that's where you get the systematic. Now we're going to go through the method out. Now you got the books. Now you got the thing. Everybody's trying to scribble and write down. No. Come on over. You know what I'm saying? Because what I'm doing now, I'm already outlining. I got probably about a dozen different outlines of. So if you think Saturday is what we kind, no. Now we're gonna make the donuts. See, we eat the donuts on Saturday, but we're gonna make everybody gonna learn how to make the donuts. You got a 12-year-old, let's get her involved because she got to make the real documentary. Which means she got to go look at the ones that we've made that nobody ever mentions. We got filmmakers. We got, in fact, Ta-Nehisi Coates, I saw they said that he may be doing the new Superman. Yeah, and I thought to myself, did you see the 70s movie Black Superman? I know you did, because this won't be the first Black Superman if you make the Black Superman. In other words, it's a flawed movie, obviously, but this ain't the first time a Black person was doing Superman. And of course, in the comics they got, but guess what? Come on the other side so that when this movie comes out, you can sit and say, okay, that was cool. Now we're about to make something else. Why? Because we done learned about Brother Man, Dictator of Discipline. We done gone through Static Shock. We know all the history of the and now we're at Marvel is doing some incredible things with non-white artists, writers. I mean, this whole Marvel Futures thing they're doing is brilliant. The young sister who's managing that unit for Marvel is great. But guess what? All that money going to Marvel. So let's be clear. If you're going to have an institution, then you got to control and own the institution. And what the architect is building, what Professor Hunter is building, that's FUBU. For some of y'all old enough to remember that. For us, by us. That don't mean you got to be Black to join. In fact, we want everybody to join. And finally, I'll say this. This is what's going to happen. Because we see it happen. This is how it works. Once you have the space and you're standing in your truth and having debate and dialogue and building and creating, guess what shifts? The whole damn world. The whole damn world. Because when they had, and Gerald writes about this with the jazz artists and Jazz and Justice, he says, those laws that they had that wouldn't let Black and white performers perform together, those laws that they tried to go into cabarets and they busted in one in Philly, beat up Bud Powell, the pianist, took Thelonious Monk's cabaret card, trying to get them jammed up on some old BS drug charge. Half these cats strung out on heroin, while the white boys are strung out too, but they ain't going to jail. He said, you know what it did? It had the unintended consequence of creating a hothouse where the Black musicians traded ideas with each other. And out of that comes bebop. Out of that comes Miles. Out of that comes Coltrane. It wasn't, when we're together and we doing our thing without regard to whoever else is doing whatever, and anybody want to join us can come, but you're not going to displace this conversation. You know what comes out of that? The stuff that built the pyramids, the stuff that created math and art and science, the stuff that created the possibility of an American future. Brother Wilmore, it ain't the founding fathers. It's them Africans that came and said, no, everybody sings, everybody dances in our culture, which means then, of course, everybody votes. And the white people were like, huh? Yeah. See, we didn't learn that from George Washington and them. We learned that from a culture, a way of knowing that says everyone participates. So we didn't learn the promise of democracy and said, I want to be like George Washington. Fool! George Washington got his wife, Katie, even vote. You showed up and said, look, I'm kicking in the door, everybody vote. And you know who then turned around and said, oh, no, women? We wasn't like women shouldn't vote. We said everybody could vote. White people in the 14th Amendment, y'all talking about the 14th and 15th Amendments, they say, okay, everybody, no, not women. So the white women say, we want to vote. And then Susan B. Anthony and them, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and them, Alice Paul, they're like, yeah, don't get a vote to Sambo before you give it to your wives and daughters. And then the black women are like, oh, chief. So all y'all making up this solidarity between black women and white women in the fight for the 19th Amendment? Y'all better go do some study. And don't be writing them books where you tell the truth and then at the beginning, at the end, try to make it about democracy. This is about human institution building, and leave it to Karen Hunter to create a space where we can be as human in the world, as free in our truth, and watch what happens. The whole thing gonna shift. The whole thing gonna shift, Karen.
Well, I hope so. And I'm trying to share my screen, so I'm gonna jump out.
Oh,
but
really?
No, I'm not, because I think people should go around and kick the tires. And again,
look, I'm looking to see.
This is a vision manifested, right? It started with a conversation, and then there's and for everyone who wants to create something, you can't do anything by yourself.
No.
I don't care how brilliant you are.
No.
I don't care how smart you are.
Nope.
We need each other. We need to, I prayed about bringing people in who were equal, if not better, in the areas and expert in their areas, because I don't want to do what you do. I
can't do what you do. I can't do it.
Everybody get in your position, grab the baton,